Hello, my fellow readers. This is iDarkSymphony777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below. In the comment section below on your thoughts on the story, and finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I'm doing today is Marked for Life by Amber MX. It is an Avatar: The Last Airbender story. This story was actually suggested to me months ago. It's just with all the backlog I've been doing, I'm almost done with the backlog. Luckily, I'm like around 20 stories left. Oh, and think about it. This time last year, I had about 100 stories. 80 stories! 1 year. Oh boy. But, this story! I don't know what to think about the story. Before I get into the review, I like it for what it is. It's just, this is kind of held up by just one thing. So, what is the plot of the story about? Well, the story is a what if scenario. What if, at the climax of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where we had that big fight between Zuko and Katara versus Azula, Azula wins. What would happen? This is what that story is. It's basically just Azula wins, and she manages to get control of Katara. She basically grabs her, and basically just kind of has her as a prisoner for several years. And it's very Beauty and the Beast, like, in how it's presented. So it's basically more or less like a romance, a very toxic romance. And this type of story kind of really needs to deliver on the dynamic between the two characters, i.e. Azula and Katara. I think that wise from that front, with how these two, how they develop and how they work together as both two characters as well as together as a relationship, quote unquote. Because, spoiler alert, at the end of the story they actually do break up because they realize they can't really stay together that long because hey, a relationship kind of built on toxic elements, you know, it's not gonna work yet, or at least, not gonna work long run. I mean, it worked out for about implied to be like 7 years, 5 at the least. It's not bad. But everything outside of the relationship between Katara and Azula is not really that great. It's not bad. I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's passable, because everything about this story kind of needs to revolve around the relationship. If the relationship doesn't work out, then the story doesn't work out. So you can kind of have everything kind of at least like very average, mediocre, as long as that core dynamic of the two characters works, then yeah, you got a good story. And that's ultimately what the story is. From a plot line, after Azula defeats Katara, Zuko actually escapes. Zuko kind of just manages to get out. Azula basically keeps Katara trapped in a dungeon. However, Katara manages to escape twice using her bending, and then also using the power of the full moon. The firebenders apparently didn't know about the full moon thing. So Azula basically keeps Katara locked up in a cage inside her room. It's like, oh, and she realizes, this is not working, because all really Katara is doing is like just moping in the corner of the cage, just ignoring everything around her. So it's like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Azula, what are you gonna do? So Azula basically decides, you know what? Instead of like leaving Katara like this, I'm going to give her a gilded cage with the promise of, when I eventually win the war, I can ruin everything in front of Katara's life, break her heart, and then kill her then. You can do that. However, it doesn't work like that, because over time, a lot of people don't trust Azula as the leader of the Fire Nation, so that kind of leads her to be paranoid. It's like, I would rather have Katara than anyone else, because at least Katara makes it very upfront and clear that she hates me. So Azula basically starts letting Katara willingly out of the cage, to spar, and then also like wander around, and they eventually start to become acquaintances, and then friends, and then partners, and fall in love with each other. It's very much presented as a very toxic relationship. That's gonna be something I have to mention very upfront. The relationship is very toxic. It's a very toxic relationship. They constantly fight, they constantly argue, they constantly treat each other like shit. Now you're wondering, wait a minute, what about the other story? The Comatose. What about Comatose? You're pretty much saying the same. Comatose was a toxic relationship. Yeah, the difference between this and this is context. This is specifically meant to be toxic from the off. It's very telling you in the face at pretty much at the beginning. Like this author's note is basically more or less telling you, hey, this relationship is going to be immoral or problematic or abusive. That's the point. It's telling you from the very first sentence that this is not going to be a traditional relationship. It's going to be a very horrible relationship. And that's the point. Meanwhile, Comatose is meant to be more of is presented up front as a traditional romance, and then the author just like, let's just have these two people just be randomly toxic to each other for no reason other than to be toxic. It just makes no sense in that story. It makes sense in this story. And I think that's ultimately the benefit to the plot, because ultimately it's basically just a bunch of time skips, because the story is presented over the course of 3 years from after, like, at the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where when Aang defeats Fire Lord Ozai, but Azula manages to still retain lordship, for like 3 years, where like the Fire Nation is like slowly losing the war, simply because yeah, maybe angering the Water Nation and constantly having them heal the other benders was a really, really bad idea. And the slowly crushing realization that, one, she's not her father, and like, and two, everything that her father and her father's father and all that is gonna come crumbling down around her, because of the simple fact that she was not trained in this sort of politics thing. She was trained to be a soldier and not a not a strategist. She basically just goes in, kills people, leaves. And so she kind of just fumbles that, and combined with her paranoia, it kind of creates a very tense situation around the story, because she's constantly always looking over her shoulder. Implied to constantly be looking over her shoulder for like spies that are planning on killing her and stuff like that. It's a very terse this terse story, but it's not really that good without the relationship between Katara and Azula. Like I'm saying, the relationship between these two basically hard carry the story. Everything, like, it doesn't really matter what I say about the plot. I can say the plot is really good. It doesn't matter if the relationship does not end up doing well, then everything just kind of fails, and that's basically what this is. Okay, it's okay pacing, it's okay sentence structure, it's okay plot, but the two characters, those are really good. And I haven't even touched on like Katara, or even like the minutiae of Azula's character yet. Like it's really astounding. And even like at the end of the story, where like Azula realizes that she's about to lose the war, and she doesn't want to have people die anymore. So basically, Katara basically convinces her, it's like, surrender. Don't even do a treaty. See, like, okay, we don't want to lose any more troops because we're kind of getting our ass whooped. But we also want to, like, if you continue fighting, we'll just keep going until like everyone dies. It's like, okay. And the story kind of ends with Azula kind of getting a peace treaty sorted between all the nations. Katara leaving, because Katara was still technically prisoner up to that point. She said, "I've got to think about it." She comes back in the penultimate chapter, said, "We'll just try a relationship." And then the next chapter reveals, "Oh yeah, they lasted 5 years and they just broke up because they're just too stubborn to each other." Because again, building a relationship off toxicity, not a good idea. And I like that. It's like it's again the plot basically hammers it home that this is not a traditional romance, and that untraditional romance hard carries everything about the story. Everything about the plot is just trying to feed into a relationship. Uh, but if we take the relationship out of the plot, it's a very bland and uninteresting plot without that relationship. It really needs that. It really needs that toxicity to in order to make the plot work. Because without it, it's pretty much just a nothing story. It just there's nothing to it. Characters. There's only really two characters, it's just Katara and Azula. Both of them are really good. I loved how the author handled them on their own. They're basically Katara's like endless bound of knowledge and headstrongness. Like, oh, she like early in the story, she like trying to she makes a she water bends an ice dagger and puts it to her throat, and she like contemplates trying to kill herself, but she can't get through it. And the only reason that she like blood bends people is because she's just more or less feral, and she's not really in her right mind. So she doesn't really do that, and she just tries to see the fire benders as like horrible evil people, like they don't really need remorse, and it's only over time that she realizes that she was like completely in the wrong for that. uh and her kind of slowly kind of having feelings for Azula, and actually learning like body language from Azula. That's actually a big thing about Katara's character, is the fact she actually learns a lot from Azula. Like she actually late in the story, Azula actually appoints Katara as her personal bodyguard. It's like, you're gonna be my bodyguard because I trust no one else. You're gonna watch everyone. I'm gonna say we're gonna do the peace treaty, and you're gonna silently watch like who's reacting, like how they react and stuff like that. You can tell me that. And Katara basically tells her, it's like, oh yeah, this person did this person aimed towards a dagger. It's like, oh, excellent. It's but she still feels like Katara. She doesn't really change that much, which is another element that I really liked about the toxicity, is the fact they don't really benefit. Like, they don't really grow off each other. Like, they kind of bash their heads against each other. They do learn from each other, but they don't grow as people. They still pretty much the same people from the beginning to the end, because of that whole stubborn aspect to the character. I think, and I know, and there's a technically antithesis to it. It's like, oh wait, you like character development, you like character growth. This is one of those situations where character development and character growth are not really 100% essential. They do grow as characters, but in terms of because changing who they are, like becoming better people or worse people or something like that, they don't really go through with that, because of the simple fact that it is more realistic for this type of relationship to kind of to specifically have that butting of heads. Like I'll literally show you, yeah, like right here. Like when they break up 5 years later, Katara realizes they were always too similar. Ambitious, hot-headed, determined, never to back down from a break. This is actually a grammar error. Civilizing Katara, project bettering Azula, Katara's project destined for friction, for collisions, too strong for each other. It's very clear that they're too similar, and because that they don't really benefit and grow as people off each other. Azula kind of tries to do that, but it always seems to backfire, because she always regresses. And that's actually what I like about Azula's character, is the fact that she tries to learn from Katara, like tries to at least learn humility, but she's still very much Azula. Like, she'll still brutally murder people who like don't agree with her. She's still even at the end of the story, she still is technically a dictator, and she's just not a dictator going to war with the other places. Like, oh, I'll still like kill my own people for like if I wanna. What about the other ones? I won't bother you anymore. I'll just no, you're killing your own people. That's just, you're gonna invade me now? Do you want to break that treaty that we all agreed on? No, exactly. Now get up. And I kind of and it's a very realistic take on Azula. It doesn't feel out of character. The fact that that throughout the entire story she does constantly regret. She kind of has there's that back and forth pull of her wanting to learn to be better. Add in the fact that Azula basically loses the fact, like, the only development Azula has is the fact, the crushing realization that she's not like her father, and her determination to try and change that. It is more the Katara, but I'm completely fine with, Katara and Azula not really growing that much as characters in terms of character development. They do have character arcs, and they do have character depth and character growth, but they don't really have a full character development, character arc to develop into, because I at least I believe that's kind of like the intention behind the story. But they're really good. They really like their whole headstrong dynamic. The fact that they constantly argue, the fact that they're really at each other's throats like half the time. Azula comes in, she starts breaking stuff. She demands Katara fight, and they fight, and they just basically like beat the shit at each other. And then they just and then like late in the story they implied to have sex, which I do want to bring something up. And it's nothing against the author. This is like a legit glitch that I didn't even know existed. When I first started reading this on the mobile app, for some reason the app actually glitched out and made this story rated M. I don't know why it did that. I legit don't know why, but it just randomly did. It fixes up to rated T, but it's like, wait a minute, why the hell is this rated M? Like, wait. And then I look on the website. It's like in rated T. It's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? I don't know why it did that, but it just did it with this story. I don't. It's just a weird thing. But I do think the relationship is good, is well written for what it's trying to convey. I do like their dynamic, their characters throughout the entire story. I think they're both really good. Uh, Pacing wise, I do think the pacing is a bit of a mess. Again, I can kind of forgive this because you're trying to tell a very very short story. Because with this type of story, you want it to be longer, so it makes sense why doing something like 124,000 words, you basically kind of do a lot of cuts, especially since again the story is taking place over the course of 3 years. So it makes sense. Like, okay, I need to like do all these cuts because it's necessary to kind of tell the story I want to tell. It's not perfect, but I understand. I understand the point behind it. I just wish that maybe it could have been used less. There's just so many cuts in the time. It just really is not. It's just honestly nonsense. Just too much in my opinion. Grammar wise, I think it's the only issue with the story. I think there's a lot of grammar errors. There are grammar errors all across the story. Not enough to be an issue, but enough to be noticeable. Again, it could be like an issue with the app. Cause I read most of the story on through the app. So there's that. But yeah, would I rec? So yeah, that's that. Would I recommend this story? Yes, if you're a fan of Azula and Katara, yeah, I would recommend it. But if you're looking for like a complete story, a full picture story, like this type of relationship with a good plot, with good pacing, with good writing, you're not gonna you're better finding better places because the story's only really redeeming quality is the dynamic between Azula and Katara. Everything else it's just average. Do I have a favorite part? Not really. There's nothing really stands out. I guess you could say the fact that the author kind of wrote that they broke up was kind of ballsy. Because you wouldn't expect like a story like this. Oh, try and end it as happy as possible, even if it's like a toxic relationship. But no, this author goes like, nah, fuck that. I'm going balls to the walls if they break up. I think it's, I think it's kind of, I think it's kind of hilarious in like an unintentional way, simply because, yeah, I'm doing this. And then Azula becomes like more or less a recluse, which I think is like a nice touch of Azula just losing everything metaphorically and mentally breaking down. Uh, but other than that, I don't really have anything else. No. So that is my review of Marked for Life by Amber MX. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.